Hi, my name is Brielle, and welcome back to my channel. So this episode picks up where it left off, and that's at the Ethiopian restaurant. But this time we're seeing it from Molly's perspective. So Molly's sitting at the bar, she's ordering her food, and she notices Issa getting out her car. And she's sitting there like, all right, let's just get this over with. And, she's popping herself up, expecting Issa to come in. And she looks back, and she sees Issa getting back in her car. And, I felt bad for Molly, like, dang, like, my feelings would be kind of hurt to see my friend about to come in and to turn around and leave. And we see that when she busts into her apartment and she's telling Andrew, like, guess who I just ran into? Like, I saw Issa and she ran from me. Like, that's crazy. And Andrew's like, oh, are you going to hit her up? And Molly's like, no, I'm not going to hit her up. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. And she's just like, yeah, like, but I'm not going to worry about Issa because he's about to go to Mexico and Issa not going to be there. So, we find out that her and Andrew are planning a trip to Mexico. And it looks like Molly's going to be meeting Andrew's family. Like, okay, so these guys are getting pretty serious to be taking, family, vacation, couples trips. But anyway, so she's packing her stuff for the trip. And, Andrew's like, oh, you bring all these bikinis. Like, my brother has so much stuff planned for us. Maybe you should put a pair of pants in there. And Molly like me, when I go on a vacation, I want skinny, mini, itty, bitty, barely wearing any clothes. Because, look, I want everything I'm not wearing back at home. I'm enjoying my weather. But anyway, so Molly's like, yeah. And, we just see them two really share a moment. And then she gets an email. She's like, man, like, I have to squeeze in a meeting for work before we leave. Next, we see Molly at work. And her assistant comes in. And she's like, yeah, like, why... that's crazy that I'm just finding out about this meeting. And the assistant's like, well, I did get notified about this meeting earlier, but it's just so crazy. It's just been so crazy I haven't gotten back to you, let you know. And Molly's like, well, you need to do a better job. Like, you don't get paid to make me look stupid. Something like kind of snapped on her girl. And for a second, I'm like, not even for a second, like, I understand Molly, like, yeah, if she's not doing her job, it makes you look bad, but you did not have to snap on her. Like, I couldn't imagine my supervisor or somebody at work telling me that, like, okay, this is a mistake. Please forgive me. Like, I am very, very busy. Like, don't just think that I'm sitting here just waiting around, waiting for emails to send to you. Like, Molly, you kind of snapped on her, but I understand because you're a lawyer, you want to look professional, like just any profession, you want to be on top of your game, but you didn't really have to snap on that girl like that. Like, that was very uncalled for. You did it the wrong way. Molly in the airport, and she's rushing to get to the gate. Y'all, I hate rushing in the airport. Like, I like to get to the airport hours ahead of time because I do not, like, I have a fear of missing my flight. Like, I do not like getting to a place later than I had planned. Like, I want to get there when I'm supposed to get there or earlier, not later. But anyway, so Molly's racing through the airport. She's trying to track Andrew down. And, she went up her little Christian Dior bag and her luggage. I'm like, okay, Molly, vacation ready. But anyway, so she ends up finding Andrew. I feel like I'm talking really, really fast. Let me just bring it back, slow it up. Sorry. So she's in the airport. She finds Andrew and they get on the plane. And the both of them are just like, whew, like... just ready to relax. And we see that Kim Fields is on a plane with them. And she just got a divorce. She ready to talk their heads off. And they just like, look, I just need a drink. So they order their drinks. And Molly's just like, when we get there, like, can we just have a late dinner and just chill for a little bit? Like, I had a crazy day. And Andrew's like, yeah, well, my brother's really into planning. Like, he had this crazy schedule for us. And Molly's like, you know what? Like, I'm down for whatever. I even packed a little something, something. And Andrew's like, okay, well, I packed a little something, something. And Molly's like, okay. Next thing you know, Andrew pulled a penny to the side, let me slide through. And they ready to get it popping before they even get to Mexico. So they pull up at the resort and it's really beautiful. They get out the car and, they're handed drinks. And then they meet Andrew's brother and his wife. And the wife seems to be really into Molly. Like, oh, girl, you look so good, hyping her up. Oh, he didn't tell us you were a 10. And I'm like, okay, this is nice. First impressions are everything. And it seems like, they like Molly and Molly likes them. And the brother's like, first of all, he's like a planner on steroids. He like, I got this plan. We gonna go to the beach. We gonna get massages. And I'm like, okay, I need to travel with him. Because when I get to my place, I like everything to be planned. I don't really like waking up and going with the flow. I like my stuff. What we doing? Like, he had everything ready. We smoking cigars. And Andrew's like, just give us a second. We just got off the plane. Like, give us a minute. And the brother's like, all right, we'll see you in 15 minutes. He's like, no. You'll see us in an hour or so. Like, give us some time. Yeah, brother. Like, I get that you are gung-ho. But when you do get somewhere, you do want to go put your bags down and you know, check out where you staying at a little bit. Slow down, bro. So Molly and Andrew are, getting settled into their room. And Molly had on this really cute mauve dress. I was like, okay, that's really nice, really vacation-esque. And, she's telling Andrew, like, oh, like, let me show you what I brought. And Molly pulls out, some lingerie, a cute bra, a cute panty set. And Andrew's like, that's it? And Molly's like, what? Like, he's like, no. Like, I think I had the wrong thing in mind. And she's like, well, what you bring? Andrew pulls out butt plugs, a vibrator, some balls, look like Kegels. I don't know what they were. And Molly was just like, oh, like, I guess I should have got the feather. Is Molly prude? Like, are you prude? Because it seems like you got the one half and he got the other half to the perfect combination, like the perfect package. Like, you got the lingerie, he got the sex toys. They both seem so taken aback. Like, Andrew's like, oh, I failed. And she was like, oh, like, I'm like, Molly, like, what was there to be upset about? Like, I didn't get it. But next thing you know, we see them on the balcony getting it popping. And I will say, this sex scene was very lackluster. Like, all the other sex scenes, they've been giving it to us. Like, on Power, you see the sex scenes, you like, he is really blowing her back out. Or she really is giving it to him. This sex scene, I just was like, I guess they could have kept that. Like, even Issa's sex scene with old boy that worked for TSA was a little more excited than that. This was like, so it's the next day, and it looks like they missed, like, the previous night, last night's festivities, and the brothers just amped up, like, okay, we're gonna take this hike, it's 3 miles, and who else is on the trail but Kim Fields? And she's talking about that divorce, like, oh, it's day 3, it's day 4, like, they just had to run into Kim Fields. But anyway, so they're about to take this 3-mile hike, and when they get to the top, they're taking in the view, it's really, really beautiful. Molly's like, wait, but how we gonna get down here? And next we see Molly on the zip line going down the cliff. And I'm like, this is good. Molly is getting this stick about her butt. Like, she needed a zip line because she'd be so uptight. So it looks like the day just went really, really well. Like, they went dancing, they're eating, like, they're having a really good time. And back at the hotel, they're just, laying around and chilling. And Andrew notices that he has 3 missed calls from Nathan. So he's like, let me call Nathan back. So he FaceTimes Nathan, and turns out that the garage wasn't working, and Andrew's like, oh, just grab the extra clicker. And we hear Issa in the background. And, when they hang up, Molly's like, oh, like, it must be Groundhog Day. Like, that's crazy she with Nathan after he ghosted her. Like, she just like messy. And Nathan's like, oh, well, like, he was really, when he goes there, he was really going through some stuff. He was really dealing with some mental health issue stuff. And when he, like, met Issa, like, it just happened to be going on at the same time. And Molly's kind of taken aback. And I'm like, yeah, Molly, you be so quick to say something negative. Like, you didn't even know what you were talking about. Like, you quick to judge Issa's situation when you truthfully don't know why he goes to her. You don't know the explanation he gave her. You don't know how they made up, when they made up. You just are so quick to say something negative and be Miss Judge Judy. But she just was like, oh, wow, like, does Issa know about this? And she's like, I don't know, like, that's their business. And truthfully, like, it is their business. And you brought all those negative thoughts and had to say that while y'all are all the way in Mexico. Like, you could have just heard Issa on the phone and just be like, But you had to bring the stale energy. But it seems like they brushed it off. And next we see Molly in her lingerie. And she comes out and she sit on Andrew's face and she like, boy, you better eat this ass. And I was just like, again, another scene I just didn't have to see that. So it's the next day and we see that the couples are together in the pool and we see Molly get up to go get a towel. And the towel attendant is like, I need to see a room key. And Molly's like, oh, like, I don't have, you just saw me step out the water. Like, can I just have a towel? And the woman's like, I'm sorry, like, this is the policy. I need to see a room key. And Molly's like, like, just give me the towel. Like, I just saw you get the white people the towel with no problem. And the attendant's like, I don't know what you're accusing me of, but I need to see a room key. It's our policy. Or I'm going to have to call the manager. And Molly's like, girl, just give me the towel. And before Molly could really, really turn up, Andrew's brother just happens to be walking by. And he's like, oh, like, here's the room key. She's with me. Like, it's not an issue. So when they get back in the pool, Andrew notices that Molly's a little upset. And he's like, like, what's wrong? And Molly's like, just some BS as usual. And Andrew's brother's like, that attendant just was giving her a hard time. And Molly said, well, you know, she was, but I feel like it was like racially motivated. And the brother's like, you think so? And Andrew was like, yeah, like, I'm sure it was. And the brother's like, you know, like, just to play devil's advocate, like, do you think it had to do with race? Maybe she just was really trying to do her job. You don't know if the manager, like, was going to be on her back about it. And Molly was like, no, like, try again. Like, it really had to do with race. And the brother's like, well, you know, like, maybe you're just giving it too much power. And Molly's like, well, you wouldn't understand because you just wouldn't understand. And the brother's like, oh, I wouldn't understand. Like, I deal with racism all the time, but it's just how you handle it. And Molly's like, well, that's crazy because as minorities, like you guys only consider yourself, people of color when it's beneficial for you. And they're like, whoa, like, what is that supposed to mean? And Molly's like, oh, Andrew, you're different. And, you know, they kind of sitting there like, whoa. And the brother's like, oh, now I see you picking and choosing what you want to give. What did he say? You're picking and choosing what you want to give weight. I don't know. I forgot his exact words. And Molly ends up saying like, you know, F you to the brother and you need to check your brother. And I'm like, the brother, okay, one, you have to acknowledge that they aren't the same race. And, you know, some people like to look at things logically, whereas as Black people, things aren't always as logical as someone might try to break them down. Like, what do you mean? Like, I think when people try to tell us situations are logical, it sort of diminishes what we experience. Like him saying like, well, what if she was really just doing her job? Okay, but I'm not crazy. I know what I witnessed and I know how she tried to treat me. So you can't convince me that she was not trying to be discriminatory against me. But I think because one, he's of a different race, a different ethnicity, I think he has the privilege of viewing things differently. Y'all get what I'm trying to say without me really getting into depth about it. But I also feel like the situation between them didn't have to escalate as much as it did. I think they really could have talked about it. Although Molly might not have agreed with Andrew's brother, I think that was something to talk about because one, like, how did you view that and how did I view that? Like, I think that's something we should be able to talk about. At least something that I like to talk about. Like, I can recognize that what you're saying is full of crap and still be able to talk to you about it. And I think that Molly didn't have to get so upset, like to say F you. But again, you can't tell people how to feel. And if that's how Molly felt in the moment, then I guess it was F the brother. But what do you guys think about the situation? Like, do you think Molly overreacted? Do you think that the brother was just being a jerk? Like, what do you guys think about that situation? Later that night, we see Molly and Andrew sleeping on separate sides of the bed, opposite sides of the bed, and Molly just can't sleep. She's upset. And I guess she's thinking about, you know, what happened earlier that night. And the next day, we see that she slept in, and Andrew comes in with some smoothies. And he's like, you know, the couples are just going to do our own thing today. And Molly was just like, you know, did I ruin things? Like, did I mess things up? And Andrew's like, no, you didn't. Like, I talked to my brother earlier. And don't worry. Like, I got your back. I'm not just going to leave you hanging. And I told him he was wrong. And it's like, okay, that's good that Andrew stuck up for Molly. Even though, there's no even though. That's good that he stuck up for Molly and didn't leave Molly hanging or made it seem like she was overreacting to the brother. And he tells Molly, like, you know, we're good. It's okay. Like, we're just going to relax today. We just want to chill. And that's when we see Molly walking on the beach. And she calls her therapist. And, you know, she leaves a message saying that she wants to have a session with her therapist. And this is really good. This is really, really good because throughout this episode, we've been seeing Molly really hot and cold. Like at one point when I saw her doing the zip line and I'm like, oh, are they going to make me like Molly this episode? Like there were moments where I was like, okay, like Molly is cool. She's likable. But then there were times where like she just was hot. Like that conversation with the brother, she was hot. Like talking about Issa, she's hot. I think Molly's either one extreme or the other. We don't really see Molly just chilling. Like just likable, kicking it and cool. Like Andrew cool. Andrew be chilling. Like he don't give you no problems. He say what he gotta say. He's cool. And that's nice that he's with someone like Molly because he really be like bringing her down and really be trying to let her know about herself sometimes. And not in a very like obvious way. But again, I think Molly has just been really hot or cold and maybe she's bipolar. I don't know, but that's good that she called her therapist. Remember, she was seeing a therapist at first, but maybe that conversation with Nathan is what really made Molly like, okay, maybe I need to see a therapist and talk my issues out. Not saying that therapy is for people with issues, because obviously like there's nothing wrong with talking to people about your problems, but they were just talking out stuff. But I don't know. Do you guys see it? Do you guys think Molly is hot and cold? I think that she's hot and cold, but let me know what you guys think. So the trip is over. They're in the airport, and that was a short trip. That trip was real short. Anyway, the trip is over, and they're in the airport, and Molly sees Lawrence, and she's like, "Oh, hey, Lawrence," and Lawrence's like, "Hey," and she introduces Lawrence to her boyfriend. "Oh, this is my boyfriend Andrew." And, you know, Lawrence is like, "Oh, hey, where y'all coming from?" And she was like, "Oh, we just came back from Mexico. How about you?" And he was like, "Oh, I just came back from Frisco." Side note, okay, Frisco. I was like, Frisco? What's Frisco? But San Francisco, that's cool. Get a little Cali lingo. Anyway, so he's like, "Oh, I came back from Frisco." And she was like, "Oh, you got it, dude." And they looking like, and she was like, "Oh, you know, Full House." Molly's so awkward. Like, this is one of those, like, cold moments. Like, she's so awkward. I get not knowing what to say, but I just was like, "You're just not likable." I don't know. And Lawrence was like, "Okay, like, I'll see y'all later." And the episode just ends there. What did y'all think of the episode? I felt like, I don't know. I honestly didn't really think the episode was that good. Like, I feel like this could have been the first half to the rest. Like, if there was another half of this, not even saying it had to be an hour long, like, maybe that could have been condensed and they could have showed us something else. Because I don't really see, I guess the point of this episode was to see a little bit more of Molly's personality, a little more inside of her relationship. But I don't know. I wasn't really a big fan of this episode. You guys let me know what you think. Do you guys think Molly is hot and cold? Like, what do you think about her and Andrew? Do you think things are getting pretty serious? Do you think she ruined things with the family? What did you think about her getting into it with the brother? You guys let me know. Drop that in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Y'all, go eat a crab. Go eat a hot dog. Go take a shot of something. It's Memorial Day. I hope you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.